Okay. Good afternoon, Ma'am Reese. Good afternoon, student. Okay, welcome to ProQuest Research Library Virtual Orientation. So thank you so much for allowing me again, Ma'am Reese. So first, I would like to introduce the library personnel headed by Ma'am Virginia Kaintik, RLMLIS, as well as our library consultant. Then yours truly, Grace A. Bahoyo, Assistant Library Head, together with Technical Services Librarian, Miss Katrina Marie F. Magbanwa, and our circulation staff, Ma'am Leah Jane Sasamo. So ProQuest Research Library. So ProQuest Research Library is a great help to all students as well as the faculty and staff. It supports your academic work with relevant and up-to-date related literature and also enhance your searching capabilities. This ProQuest Research Library is already 5 years since nag-subscribe tayo nito. Supposedly, this is a hands-on orientation kasi mas maganda kasi yan si ProQuest kung hands-on talaga ninyo. Since pandemic tayo, so all I can give is this virtual orientation. So, si ProQuest naman is user-friendly platform. So, hindi naman siya mahirap gamitin. So, what is ProQuest Research Library? ProQuest provides one-stop access to thousands of full-text periodicals from one of the broadest, most exclusive general reference databases ProQuest has to offer. So ProQuest is diverse content solution means it was peer-reviewed journals. All articles written by expert are reviewed by several experts in the field before article published in a journal to ensure the quality of the article and also ensure the research reasonable. So yan si ProQuest. So ProQuest has 5,000 plus publication, including scholarly journal, magazine, newspaper, books, audio and videos, and thesis and dissertation, and mga reports, and others. So marami pa siya. So what features of ProQuest? So pwede siya print, download, and email. You can also create ProQuest personal folder. You can translate different languages, change citation format. Ano yung gusto niyo ng mga format, and then view in HTML or PDF format. So ito. So I have prepared 6 step how to use research library. So paano kayo mag-access ni ProQuest? So sino sa inyo dito ang naka-access na ni ProQuest? Lahat ba naka-access ni ProQuest? Okay. So step 1, type in the URL into a web browser, ito, search.proquest.com. So yan siya. Si ProQuest, ang magagamit nyo si ProQuest kahit saan as long as may internet kayo. Kahit saan. Search.proquest.com. Then, login through your library. So ito siya, makikita nyo. Pag na-enter nyo na yung search.proquest.com, so click login through your library. Step 3, can find your library, click the more access option. So may ano dito, itong example, may space. So kung hindi labas dito si yung school natin, more access option kayo. Then step 4, so ito, need ni ProQuest ng account nyo. username and password. Then log in. So kung wala kayong username and password para makapasok kay ProQuest, ito na gagawin nyo. Step 5, contact a librarian through the following option. So, FB page. So, we have our official Facebook page sa library, www.facebook.com/gsdmsfi library. So, ilike nyo yung Facebook page natin sa library. Wait lang. So, pakilike sa Facebook page natin sa library. Or, you can text us through this cellphone number 095130663331 or 0949-411-04149 or email us through gsdmsfilibrary@gmail.com and provide the following: so full name, course and year, contact number, and email address, this proof of enrollment, validated school ID, o yung enrollment form nyo, or validated library ID, library card. Then, step 6, you log in successfully. Pag mayroon na kayong username and password ni ProQuest, pag ni-enter nyo yon, ito na yung lalabas. Makikita nyo si General Santos Doctors Medical School Foundation. So, yan siya. Ito na siya. So, meron tayong basic search, advanced search, and publication. So, ito. Advanced search. Paano gagamitin ang advanced search? If alam nyo na yung title and author. Alam nyo na. Then, publication search. Ito. Click nyo lang to, provided naman yung mga ay mga letter dito. Click nyo lang. May source type din siya, publication subject, languages, publisher database. So, then, balik tayo sa basic search. For example, you want an article about education. So, type nyo education. Then, lalabas yung mga related sa education. So, naka-highlight yung mga education. So, mayroong result dito na 3,423,763 result. So, ang dami. So, dito sa article na to, makikita nyo ang abstract, details, full text, PDF. So, ito yung kung anong gusto nyo na lalabas sa article. Gusto nyo ng abstract, konti lang. Full text, gusto nyo itong basahin lahat, full text, then PDF. So, may choice kayo kung saan nyo gusto, anong document yung mag-a-appear sa screen nyo. Next, ito sa gilid may source type. So, ano yung gusto nyo? Newspaper, scholarly journal, trade journal, magazine, report, and may other option pa. And sa publication date naman, so ito. So, nakalagay dito year 1909 to 2017. So, kaya ang daming result na lumabas kasi from 1909 to 2017. So, pwede nyo to siyang i-filter. So, kung gusto nyo, 2015 to 2020 ang lalabas. So, dito kayo, enter a date range, then update. Para at least ma-filter yung mga updated lang na mga article. Next, dito sa kabila, mayroon tayong download PDF. So, may site, print, email, and save. Itong site, ito yung citation. So, ano yung ginagamit nyo na citation? So, pwede nyo i-change. So, like dito, APA 6th edition, pwede nyo itong i-click, automatic, may citation na yung document. So, hindi na kayo gagawa ng citation. Copy-paste nyo na lang. May citation na. So, done. Next, email. You can send this document into your email. So, click nyo lang yon, tapos lalabas na ito, enter your email address. Then, continue, automatic, masend na yun sa mga email nyo. Then, print. You can also print the document. The article. Ito. Then, ito siya. So, may translate tayo doon nakikita. So, you can translate that document, the article. Example, ito. Ito an article. From English to Arabic, Chinese, French, German. So, you can translate the article. Next, back na kayo. Ay, ito. Ito, makikita nyo itong tao sa gilid. So, ang purpose niyan is to create your sign in into my research account. So, pwede kayong mag-create ng account kay ProQuest. So, pag click nyo yun, click sign in to my research, ito yung lalabas. So, click again my research account. So, ito na yung ito yung lalabas, username. Mag-fill up kayo nito. Wait lang. So, ang purpose ni my research account is, for example, marami kayo ay mga gusto kayo ng mga article, pero hindi nyo pa siya mababasa talaga. So, pwede nyo check lang kayo, and then automatic mas-save na yan sa my research account nyo. And pwede nyo na lang balikan pag may time na kayo para hindi siya mawawala. So, I think yun lang siya. May question po ba? Kung may question kayo, pag once na-access nyo na si ProQuest, you can message us in our FB, official Facebook page sa library. I-message nyo lang kami pag may ma-encounter kayo na hindi nyo maintindihan or nahirapan kayo kay ProQuest. Message nyo lang kami. So, wala na po. Ma'am Riz, may question.
Walang question, students. Okay na tayo doon?
Yes po, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sige. So, thank you, Ma'am Grace, for sharing how to use the ProQuest sa mga students so that they can use it for their research and other subjects then requiring some research activities.
Okay. Welcome, Ma'am Riz. Thank you.
So, ayan. We will have our chapter 6. This is chapter 5. I'll just edit later. This is chapter 5 for statistics. We will be talking about the normal distribution before ta mag-start sa mga statistical tests available na you can use in analyzing and then interpreting your data pag mag-research na mo, mag-istorya sa taog normal distribution. Kasi this is very important when you decide what type of statistical test are you going to use sa pag-analyze and pag-interpret ng data. So we have 3 types class of frequency distribution. So as you can see on the screen, this is a graph. Actually, this is a graph class of the data. For example, mag-conduct mo og survey, and then after conducting the survey, you will gather all the results. And then after that, before mo mag-decide what type of statistical tool inyong gamiton, naghimo sa taog graph. So, ang himuon nato nga graph is a histogram. And then, we will look at the distribution of the data collected kung unsa ang iyahang characteristics. So, ang gusto nato and ang ideal, unta, na data na supposedly makollect ninyo should be called a normal distribution. Dapat normally distributed ang atuang data. And then, on the screen, you can see the histogram or the graph of a normally distributed data. Kanang naa sa tunga, kanang letter B. So, normal na siya, no skew, and it means na pareho imuhang mean, imuhang median, and ang imuhang mode. So I hope you have not yet forgotten how do you get these three. These three are measures of central tendency. So measures na siya sa central tendency. Ang pinakaginagamit jud nato ang mean, pero in graphing, using a histogram, kapag normally distributed imuhang data, supposedly your mean, median, and mode is located in the center. So this is how it looks like. It should be a normal na bell-shaped na graph. However, there will be times na dili normally distributed atong makuha nga data. And then when we graph them, we will not get a perfect bell shape. So the first one here, letter A, is called a negatively skewed data. Okay, so negatively skewed data siya, in which you have here a longer tail on the left. This is the left side. So longer tail, and then most of your data are located at the right side of the graph. So mostly nakakoncentrate atong mga data on this part if i-graph nato siya. And as you can see, hindi pantay-pantay yung measures of central tendency. Your mode is located here. That is your highest data. And then you have here the mean, which is not really a representative sa imuhang nakuha na sample. Kasi naa siya somewhere here. But nevertheless, when you say negatively skewed, the data is in the negative direction. You have outliers here. When you say outliers, class, these are extreme data. So for example, na kay 100 kabuok nga nag-survey ka, tapos ang 90% nag-agree sila sa whatever question you ask them, and then only 10% disagreed. So kaning 10%, they can be called an outlier, or ano sila, kanang lahi sila tubag sa uban. So mga excess, mga outliers sila, layo sila from the most common answers. So diri sila makita sa tail. And then again, diri naka-concentrate ang imuhang data. We call this negatively skewed. And then another one, another type of frequency distribution na dili sad normal is called a positively skewed distribution. So this naman is on the positive direction, wherein most of the data, the scores, or the values you have collected are concentrated here on the left. Okay? Concentrated siya on the left. And then your outliers, ayan, the tail of your distribution is located on the right. Okay? Questions? Ayan. Sige. So let's talk about the normal distribution. Kasi this one is our ideal, supposedly. When you say normally distributed ang imuhang data, wait, sige, again, if you have a normally distributed data, the right-hand side, this is the right-hand side of the graph is a mirror image of the left-hand side. So there is symmetry. If you divide the graph, the right side looks like the left side. So pag normally distributed ang data mo, you have a median that is located exactly at the center of your distribution. So you have the same mode, the same mean, and the same median. So this one is called a perfect distribution. Pero actually, mo to kung ginaingon kagain na nga, supposedly mo na siya itong ideal. Pero most of the time, dili nato ni siya makuha when we conduct research. Dili pud ni siya kaayo strict nga kailangan bell-shaped jud. So later, mag-discuss ta na even if you cannot get a perfectly symmetrical na distribution of data, we can still call it normal distribution. Okay, so what are the characteristics of a normal distribution? So the first one, the data should be unimodal. When you say unimodal class, you only have one mode. Kasi there will be times, since you have a lot of data, there will be times na marami kang makukuha na mode. Diba ang ibig sabihin ng mode, these are the numbers that are highly repeated sa imuhang nakuha na data. So for example, daghan kay kag 89. So scores, for example, we are talking about the scores. So daghan kay 89. So mo na siya ang mode. Kaya siya man ang paulit-ulit na scores. Pero again, ingon ko, there will be times na daghan ka og mode. So kapag mauna siya ang mahitabo nga daghan ka og mode, dili na siya matawag og normal distribution imuhang data. Dapat unimodal lang gid siya, isa lang jud ka buok imuhang mode. Okay? Unimodal ha isa, usay man gud kay bimodal. Bimodal means duha. Bi means two, try, and you have multimodal. So dili nato siya tawagon og normal distribution. And then another characteristic, as I have mentioned, the distribution should be symmetrical. That when we graph it using a histogram, you can get a perfect bell shape. If you divide your histogram, the right and the left side looks exactly the same. And then the third characteristic, the frequencies decline steadily as we move towards higher or lower values. So without any sudden sharp cutoff. So wait, let me write on the screen. Mata pa mo class, basig natulog na mo. Kay murag lami ikatulog karon, hapon unya nag-ulan. Mata pa. Okay, so when you say a perfect bell shape, so this one, sorry, this should be like this. So padayon lang siya class, pagpababa na siya, mubaba lang siya with a steady flow. So wala siya yung mga sharps or mga sudden cuts which looks like this. Mga ana, this one is considered na not normal distribution. So man na iyahan ginamin. So next, so about 1/3 of individuals will have values within one standard deviation of the mean. So what do you mean by that? If this is the mean, diba, remember if you have a normal distribution, the three measures of central tendency are the same and they should be located at the center. So example, this is your mean, your median, and your mode. Ang tatlo ka M nato. So pag maingon kag normal daw imuhang distribution, 2/3 sa imuhang sample is located within 1 SD of the mean. If this is the mean, so i-compute lang nimo ang standard deviation. So what will be the standard deviation? Example, your standard deviation is this one. Ang standard deviation can be positive or negative. So kung positive, it's going to the right here, and then pag negative, going to the left. So ang imuha daw 2/3 sa imuhang sample, ang ilahang mga scores is located within this area para matawag nimo siya nga normal distribution. Tapos, about 95% of the individuals will have values within 2 standard deviations of the mean. So katong mean nga ato katong standard deviation nga gi-compute, i-times 2 lang to nato. So pag i-times 2 nato, for example, this one mo na ni ang times 2 for the negative, this one naman for the positive. So 95% naman of our sample should be located within this area. Dapat ilang mga scores nakasulod din ha na area para sa I'm talking about the graph ha, para matawag siya na normal distribution. So, na siya ang mga characteristics sa ato ang normally distributed na data. Okay? So again, we will be using the histogram in graphing. Okay? But actually, ang mga statisticians karon, they don't really graph. They don't really make a graph. Just by looking at your samples, nag-decide na sila agad-agad whether it's a normally distributed data or not. So actually kasi sa sample size, makikita mo na siya. If you have a sample size na more than 50, for example, nag-survey ka, tapos more than 50 ang imuhang sample size, automatic mag-normally distributed. Ako kayo ang chance na normally distributed ang inyong data. But if it's less than 50, usahay gani ang 30 pataas, normally distributed pa. But if it's less than 30, that's the time your data can be positively skewed or negatively skewed. So pag positively skewed again, it has a peak or highest score or frequency at the left side. So at the left side siya pag positively skewed. So wait lang. So your graph looks like this. So this one is the right side here, and the peak or your scores are located at the left side. So the position of the mode in which it's vertical does not divide the distributions into two equal parts. So contrary to the normally distributed, na if you divide it using the mode, the left and the right side looks the same. This time, if you divide it using the mode, you cannot get a symmetrical division. Okay, and then the median is at the right side of the mode and the mean at the right side of the median. So if we go back to the graph, this is a positively skewed one. So this is the mode. Looking at it, the left side is not the same with the right side. And then after your mode, you have your median. And then after your median, you have your mean. So they are not equal. It's positively skewed data. And then the negatively skewed naman is disproportionate in the opposite direction. So yung scores naman are most likely found at the right side again. So this one is called a negatively skewed distribution. So the scores here, that is why the graph here is like pataas siya din kaya you can see most of the scores in this part of the graph. And then using the mode, you cannot also divide it na symmetrical. So the left and the right sides do not look the same. Questions, class, about normal distribution when the negatively and positively skewed. Nasabtan to?
Ma'am, may question ko, ma'am. Pag mag-measure gud og SD og 95%, ma'am, sa mean median mode mag-start.
Sa mean siya mag-start.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you,
Sa
ma'am.
mean. Pag 95% sa mean siya. So mean ang imuhang palatandaan kung asa ka di ba mag SD, kung asa nimo siya ibutang sa imuhang graph. Okay? Kasi kung pareha sa positively skewed o negatively skewed, since their mean median modes are not equal, so ang mean gihapon ang imuhang palatandaan dinhi. So one standard deviation from the mean. So this one is just, for example, dito and dito ang isa. And it's also true for a positively skewed data. Anything else? Wala na. So, what is the purpose of knowing this one? So take note, class, that a positive or negative skewness is described as a not normal data. And if your data is not normally distributed, you will be using a non-parametric test. Pag magsugod na ta og discuss sa mga daghan kaayong test sa statistics, i-divide nato na sila into two, parametric and non-parametric. Okay? Again, the division sa atong statistics, parametric and non-parametric tests. Tapos, how will you know if you use a parametric test? Parametric test is used if your data is normally distributed. Okay? Again, parametric test is are used if your data are normally distributed. But if your data is not normally distributed, then we will be using a non-parametric test. Okay? So most of the time, we use non-parametric test if our data are either nominal or ordinal. So I hope you can still remember the different levels of measurements or data types we discussed sa prelim. So naatay nominal, just a sort of review. Nominal, we also call this categorical na mga data. So, pag mayroon kag nominal, wala kay numerical values. Instead, your data is divided into categories. So, for example, you ask your respondents, i-identify niya iyahang self according to sex, kung male or female ba siya. So again, that type of data has no numerical value. Instead, there is only classification. Now, pag ordinal sad ang atuang data, though naa siya numerical value, pero we just assign it and naa siya ranking, naa siya degree or ranking, like using a Likert scale kanang pirmi ginapa-answer sa atuas sa mga survey no, ng mga 1 2 3 4 5. We have disagree, moderately agree, mutual, agree, and moderately agree. So kanang mga ingana na may 1 2 3 4 5, there is ranking, and then gi-assign lang ang 1 for disagree. So mga ingana na mga case, ordinal data na siya. So kapag ka again, ingana atong data, nominal or ordinal, non-parametric test na kay we cannot get a normal distribution for that. Okay? Questions again? Wala. Time is it? Okay. So, skewness can actually be computed sa statistics. So this is our formula. Skewness is equal to 3 times M minus MD divided by SD. So 3 times M minus MD divided by SD. So ginamina ni nila. SK means the skewness. 3 is a constant. So lagi din siya dira sa ato ang formula. And then SD means the standard deviation. And M is the mean. MD is the median. Okay? So, let's have an example. So, for example, let me open a file, a recent file na lang. This one. Oh yeah, kanina lang. Sige. We have 20 data here. These are sample scores. So, we will try to compute for the skewness. So, anong nag-open ko just para automatic mag-compute og standard deviation, mean and median. So, let's have this. And then, I need the median. Okay, so later na mag-istorya ng skewness na. Actually, na skewness diri class sa sa tuang jazz, pero later na. So please take note of the following na mga scores. The computed mean is 85.6. This is actually your assignment last time. Yatag na ko ni sa inyo as assignment, right? Pero gamito na to siya to compute for the skewness. Okay? 85.6 ang mean, tapos ang median kay 89, tapos ang standard deviation is 8.74. Let's just round off it to 2 decimal places, 8.74. Take note please so that we can start computing for the skewness. Okay? Sige. So let's try using this formula. Sige, try na to. SK is equal to 3. Ano tong mean? 80? Ano ba? Wala ko na.
5.6.
85.6. How about the median?
89.
89. And then the standard deviation?
8.74.
Okay, 8.74. Sige, compute na to. 85.6 minus 89 is negative 3.4 divided by 8.74. Continue na ko siya dire ha. So, negative 3.4 times 3 is negative 10.2 divided by 8.74. So, negative 10.2 divided by 8.74 is negative 1.17. So, the skewness now na na-compute na to is negative 1.17. Supposedly, class, if normally distributed atong data, our skewness should be 0. Kay di ba dapat hati jud siya, parehas jud siya og nawong. Now, from the computed skewness, it's actually a negatively skewed data. So, pag negative man siya, so negatively skewed data siya. Which means you have a tail nga naa sa left and then most of the scores is located at the right. Pero, ingon ko, di ba, nga dili kaayo ta strict with the normal distribution nga dapat 0 jud. Kasi, what do you call that? Almost impossible nang makakuha tag 0 sa ato ang skewness na as in perfect jud, symmetrical or normally distributed ang ato ang data. So, take note of this. Ay, nakuha tong computation. Dali lang man ang computation na if you just know the mean, the median, and the standard deviation, dali ra siya i-compute. Okay? Questions atong computation before ta mag-istorya o ano? Kanang, what do you call that? The rule of the thumb. Wala. Okay, let's talk about how do we interpret the skewness. So our rule of the thumb here, if the skewness is between negative 0.5 and 0.5 positive, the data are fairly symmetrical. So though it's not a perfect 0, we can still generalized na it's most likely a normally distributed one. But if your data is between negative 1 and negative 0.5 or between 0.5 and 1, the data are moderately skewed. It's skewed, but yes, we can still accept that. We are not very much strict here. But if the skewness is less than negative 1 or greater than 1, the data are highly skewed. By the time, dili na siya normal nga data. It's really not normal, so we cannot use a parametric test. Sa gani ang result sa to ang bago lang na compute. Negative So let me
1.17.
Okay, negative 1.17. So what do you think about this score? So kaya siya
Moderately skewed.
fairly, moderately, or
Highly
highly
skewed,
skewed?
ma'am.
Highly.
Okay, actually this one is a highly skewed data kasi it's greater than negative 1. So ma-consider na siya na highly skewed data. So dili na siya normal na distribution. We cannot use a parametric test here. We can still analyze the data, but we will use the non-parametric test. Nakuha?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, questions? Walay? Jutang. So, let's move on to another measure natin if normal ba ang ating distribution or not. So we have the term kurtosis. So you can also encounter this one sa mga statistics. Okay? Kurtosis class is the term used to describe the shallowness or steepness of a distribution. So you have a curve. Like this one is for a for a normally distributed data. So for example, naa kay bell-shaped na curve. So tanawan nato if it's a shallow curve or a steep curve. So naay tatlo ka klase na kurtosis class, the lepto, meso, and platykurtic na mga curve. If you have a leptokurtic na curve, you will have a steep kurtosis. Our ideal should be a mesokurtic, which is a normal curve, and platykurtic is a flat curve. So this one is the 3 types of kurtosis. So kanang color green, it's silang tanan class is normally distributed ha. So you have there a bell shape, but I mean, if you divide this, the right and the left side looks the same, but yung steepness nila magkaiba. So the green one is a thin curve. So you have a very high value, high frequency, and then ang imuhang mga data ani duol-duol lang sila with each other. We call it a leptokurtic. Leptokurtic na siya. And then if you have perfect bell shaped kanang color na maroon, I don't know, it's mesokurtic class. And then the blue one, which is a flat curve, though it's normally distributed, but your data are like spread, nakaspread sila, so you will have a flat curve here. We call it a platykurtic. So kaning kurtosis actually gina-compute pud ni nila, but I will not require you to compute this one. It's a very complicated computation. But since we have available softwares, we will just be using softwares for this. Okay? So dili na nako ni siya ipa-compute. So let's go back dito sa saan na tong akong just. So this one. Ayan. So descriptive statistics raman gud to atong gikuha kagaina katong mean, median, mode, and not the mode, the standard deviation. Actually, you can include the graph here. So you just, so for example, this one, the descriptive statistics, you just click the plots here, and then you just click distribution curve, and then it will give you this one. So naana kay histogram. So what do you think of the histogram? Or you can click the display density so that you can have the curve. So is this a normally distributed data? What do you think? Makita ang screen, no?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No. So actually, you can also use the Excel for this, but mas ang Excel, mas complicated siya pag buhat na kag histogram. That is why I opt to use the just para diretso-diretso tatanan. Again, you just click the plots and then click distribution plots and then display density. You will see the graph. So as you can see, this is not a normal distribution. So ano man ni, positively skewed or negatively skewed? Ha?
Negatively.
Negatively? Negatively skewed. So you have a tail here sa left and then most of the data is concentrated to the right. So sa baba class, sa statistics naman na part, actually you can compute for the skewness and the kurtosis agad-agad. So like if you just click kurtosis and it will give you the kurtosis here. So tama atong giingon nga this is a negatively skewed data because you can see it's negative 0.904. So it's not really a normally distributed one. It's a negatively skewed data. And then you can also add the kurtosis. So the kurtosis is negative 0.188. I hope you can see it. Basi gamay kayo sa inyong screen. This one. Di ko kabalo magpadako og screen class. So that's negative class. Dili pud siya perfect na kurtosis. So this is also not indication na normally distributed na tong data. So in that case, class, we cannot use a parametric test here. We will be using a non-parametric test. So ang mga next lessons na ako nang i-introduce sa inyo unsa tong parametric o mga non-parametric. Basta lang jud inyong tandaan para makaingon ka nga parametric test imong gamiton nga test dapat normally distributed imong data. Okay? Questions, class? I will not be requiring you to compute for the kurtosis. I might require you for the skewness, but not with the kurtosis. As long as you know what are the 3 types of kurtosis. And then actually, most of the statisticians, though they know what are these things, but they don't really use this that much when they decide whether your data is normally distributed or not. They just look at the histogram and then they just look at the mode if you only have one mode, and then the sample size also. If you have a lot of sample size, even without looking at the graph, mo-conclude na sila na your data is normally distributed. So it should be more than 50 para normally distributed imuhang data. Questions so far? Wala.